Hello all, welcome back. Uh, Today we're going to be installing GPT-2. And so how are we going to do this? First of all, we are going to need to go to the GPT-2 GitHub repository. And here we go. This is github.com/openai/GPT-2. And once we're here, it's kind of a pain. You have to have this maximized in order to be able to see this code button here. When this is a split screen, it doesn't show up. But what you want to do is click down on this code button here and then hit this little clipboard, which will copy this into your uh, clipboard. So the other thing we're going to look at here while we're here is the README. And so pretty much what this is saying here is that it's going to say GPT-2 has some problems. It's certainly not as good as GPT-3, but GPT-3 is not available for free, and this is. And then it says here that we're going to want to look at this developers.md file here. And this is going to give us some instructions that don't work. So, like most repositories that are out here on GitHub, the documentation has gotten out of sync with the repository, and therefore it doesn't work. So when it doesn't work, what do? Do we give up? No, we go and we start looking through the issues up here. And the issues are going to tell us some things. So I've already done this, so you don't have to. And I'm going to show you how to do this. This is Saturday, September 26th, 2020. So if you see this in the next couple of months, it probably works. After that, it's probably not going to work that well, but who knows? Anyway, let's get started with it. So the first thing it says to do is to clone this guy here. So you just copy this, and you pull up a terminal, and I've got a terminal here somewhere. All right, right now GPT-2 is running. So let's bring up another terminal. And let's just put this down here. And you'll see that I am in my base directory here. Oh wait, I'm going to CD over to my code directory because that's where I like to put all of the stuff that I clone. And I'm going to do the git clone git at github.com OpenAI GPT-2 blah blah blah. And I've already done this, so I don't need to do it again. But I would just hit enter at this point, and it would clone. So you can do that, and then once you have that, then you can go into the GPT-2 directory, and you'll see a bunch of stuff in here. You'll see the developers.md file. That's what we're looking at here on the right. But you'll have your own copy here. You'll also have this models directory. You'll have this requirements.txt. And you'll have this download model.py thing. We're going to use all this stuff. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a conda, because I have conda here, but you can use virtual env. I'm going to make a virtual environment for this. I'm not going to just stick it willy-nilly in my base environment. Now, if you don't understand virtual environments, you should go and learn about them. The easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is to learn about Conda or Anaconda and virtual environments. And then come back and you could do the rest of this. So conda create minus name GPT-2 Python equals 3.6. So let's look over here, and does this say anything about what Python you're supposed to use? Doesn't seem to. We know we're using Python 3 because we're using pip3, right? So, but what version should we use? 3.6 or 3.7 or 3.8? Well, the problem is if you use 3.8 or 3.7, it will not work. So really, I should put in a pull request to have this documentation fixed up a little so that we know to use Python 3.6. So once you create this, I'm not going to hit enter because I already have this GPT-2 thing here. Then you do a conda, activate GPT-2, and boom, you jump into here. There you are. And now, once you're in here, you're going to need to install TensorFlow. So you do this, right? Or you can do this one. If you have a GPU, you can do this one. Either one. If you're not going to be creating models, which you're probably not going to be doing, this one is fine. This one without the GPU is just fine. And then you hit enter and it'll do its thing. I've already done this, so you don't have to do it again. I don't have to do it again, but you do. Once that's done, we're going to do this, pip3 install -r, and I put a sudo in front of this, sudo pip3 install -r requirements.txt. It seems to want that. I went through the process of installing this several times, not having it work, and then doing a if you mess it up, you can do a conda deactivate, and that'll put you back in the base environment. And then you can do a conda env remove -n GPT-2. That will wipe out your virtual environment, and you can start over. You can start over with a conda create -n blah blah blah. Remake your GPT-2 environment, and then reinstall all of this stuff. So I'm in here. Here's my GPT-2 environment. My prompt shows what virtual environment I'm in. So now I can do this sudo excuse me, I almost sneezed. Sudo pip3 install -r. -r is recursive, requirements.txt. And that'll install a whole bunch of stuff that you need. And then once that's done, you want to do this Python 3 download model pi, the 1.24 megabyte. I think that's 124 million parameter model. And so it's fairly large. It'll take a few minutes to download. Excuse me. And these are larger, and they're they do a better job, but the test we're going to do on this, or the command we're going to give it, wants the small model. So we're going to do this one here. And so this will take a while, and when you're done, you'll see, you will see that over here in your models directory, you will have the 124 million parameter model here. And then once that's done, we're going to skip this part because we did a native installation, so we don't have to do the Docker installation. You do the Docker installation if you don't want to do the native installation. And then we come down here to the running section here. And it says, warning, samples are unfiltered and may contain offensive content. What they did when they created this model is they got a lot of text off of the web from Reddit forums and that sort of thing. And so people say some pretty horrible things inside these forums. And so, therefore, the model is trained with this data, and some of it is awful. So then we're going to do this export the Python encoding to UTF-8. If you're going to be running this all the time, you should stick this in one of your startup files. I run ZSH, so I'd probably stick this in my ZSH-rc file, .zshrc file. In fact, why don't I do that now? Or my .pro file. I'm not sure where this should go. I'm going to put it in. I've got an alias for this, ZSH config. This is my .zshrc file. And so I'm just going to go up to the top here, which is GG, and open this up right here, and then export Python IO encoding equals UTF-8. And so now, whenever I start up, I will have this. But since I could source that file, but I'm just going to put it in here like this. So now if I echo $Python IO encoding. Oops, no space. I don't know how that space got in there. It says UTF-8, so that's correct. And then we're just going to generate these samples here. And this takes a while. And you may see some errors here, but that's all right. You can do that, and that won't harm you. And then you're going to run this file here. Let's see how this goes. Paste here. And this takes a little while. You should get a prompt at the end of this. All right. Well, I don't know what's happening here. This is just this is hanging. All right. This may be a problem. Let's do this one instead. All right. So for some reason that wasn't working. Let's try this one here. All right, this is what we wanted here. We want to see this model prompt. And now we can type in to fry an egg. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through the model, and it's going to figure out which words have the highest probability of following up this fragment here, this to fry an egg. So it's going to generate the next word, and then it's going to take all of this and it's going to use it to generate the next word, and so on and so forth. And I think that it will it will remember 2048 tokens so that it'll get the proper context. So to fry an egg with oil or bacon, make sure the eggs are cooking. Temperature, 1/2 teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon, depending on the color of the skillet. This is important. All right, so it's not exactly perfect, but you can see that it actually, for the most part, is fairly relevant to frying an egg. It's not an exact recipe or anything like that. Anyway, this is GPT-2. If you did this with GPT-3, you would get something that you probably could not tell that a person didn't complete that fragment. But that has a much larger model. That has a model that's so large that I would not be able to run it on my computer. It's just too big. But anyway, this gets GPT-2 up and running. You can use the larger model. This is the small, as I said, this is the small model. The larger model for this should be much better. Take a look at that. That's rather than 124 million, it has a 1.5 billion parameters. So it's more than 10 times the size, more than an order of magnitude larger. So it should do much better. The main thing that you have to know here is that oh, well, I only told you one of the things you need to do. First of all, you need to use Python 3.6. The other thing that you need to do is you have to use TensorFlow 1.13, I believe. 1.13. Otherwise, you get an error. So, this is the joy of using other people's repositories out on GitHub. The documentation is usually out of sync with the repository, and the way we figure out what needs to be done is by looking through the issues, because if you run into a problem, you can be pretty sure somebody else has run into it, and they've put in an issue, and someone from OpenAI has answered the question, but not necessarily updated the documentation. Anyway, I hope you find this interesting. I hope it's helpful, and that you learn about GPT-2. I'm going to do fairly soon, I hope to do another video on how to get this to work with this speech-to-text recognition and text-to-speech output. So I thank you for joining me, and cheers.